So, there we go. So God's upset because he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And God says, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for I repent that I've made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Okay, so now that's an interesting thing. So here what we have is, the question is, the whole world's in chaos at this point, right, this point in the story. And the chaos is of multiple sorts. It arose from the fall. It arose from the emergence of self-consciousness. It arose from the sins of Cain. Like, things are not going well. It's multiple levels of collapse. And it's got to the point where God's saying, this is a mess. Like, it's such a mess that the whole thing has to be washed away. The first fall wasn't enough. Even Cain's collapse wasn't enough. We're going to just scrub the whole bloody thing clean. So it's the ultimate in traumatic collapses. The question is, well, what do you do in the face of the ultimate in traumatic collapses? And the answer is in the story. So Noah is someone who finds favor in the eyes of God. So he's like Abel. There's something that Noah's doing right that's going to enable him to ride out the storm. And so the question, here it's the same question. Do you want to have a life where there's no storms? Or do you want to have a life where you can ride out the storms? That's the issue, right? Are you behind the dikes, or do you build a boat? Do you captain the boat? That's the same idea. And so the idea here is that the thing that rides out the chaos is the thing that builds and captains the boat. It's another dominance hierarchy idea. What should be at the top? Well, it's the top of something that doesn't get flooded out as well. What should be at the top? Well, it's to be the boat builder and to be the captain of the boat. It's not to be hidden from the flood, precisely. And so, I mean, here's something to think about. Identity politics, because that's what we're up to our neck in. Okay, are you who you are? Can I box you in? Will you accept that as an identity? So I could do that lots of ways. You're male, you're Asian, you're young, right? There's things about you that I can derive because of your putative membership in a set of different groups. The problem with doing that is that the number of groups that I can assign you to is without end. So I have to pick arbitrary groups to assign you to, and you can accept that if you want, but there's no evidence that those are the proper canonical groups. But maybe you're happy about that, because now you've been assigned membership in a group, and that's your identity. Okay, so the question is, well, fine. What happens when that identity is blown into pieces? Then what? Well, here's the answer to some degree. And this is the answer that's embedded in the story of Noah. If you want to withstand chaos, do you want to be who you are, or do you want to be the thing that changes who you are constantly? That's the question. And that's the difference. That's the difference. There's a categorical difference in identity. Are you who you are, or are you the thing that could continually be more than you are? And that's the thing that isn't the stable identity. It's not the initial state. It's also not the state of being in chaos, that nihilistic state, let's say. And it's not even the state of reformulation that occurs after you've gone through the process. It's the state of continually going through the process. So you can identify with the thing that you can identify with the thing that you are, or you can identify with the thing that transforms who you are. Right. And that's the same as the state subjugating itself to the individual. Because the individual is the thing that transforms the state. And what the state should do, the state's necessary, because obviously it organizes all of us into peaceful cooperation and competition. The state's necessary. Then the question is the state the highest good? And the answer to that is, well, it can't be, because it's old and dead and blind. And so if the state becomes the highest good, then you're occupied by the spirit of something that's old and dead and blind. Well, that's not only not good for you, because then you're old and dead and blind, but it's also bad for the state, because as soon as the state gets old and dead and blind, God gets unhappy with it, and the chaos comes in and washes it away. So it seems like a bad solution. So what's the proper solution? You subordinate your group identity to the identity that transforms your identity, right? And the state subordinates its power to the vision and articulation of the individual, because that's what revives the state. And so that's what these stories are trying to stumble towards, roughly speaking. So